In this video, we'll begin creating the gameplay that's featured in our VR game. We already can throw balls from the player's perspective. Next, we'll add an environment in which to throw them and a target to throw them at. We'll begin by creating a floor and some walls. Next, we'll create a bottle, which will become a prefab. After that, we'll create the behavior that should run when the ball hits the bottle, shattering it. Let's begin by making the floor. We'll go Game Object, 3D Object, Cube. We'll lower this down a bit so that it's below the camera. We'll name it Floor, and we'll also set it to Static. Doing this will make Unity aware of the fact that this is not going to move. Next, we're going to create a material used for this floor. We'll go into the Assets folder and go Create Material. We'll name this new material Floor. The floor will be quite dark, darker than the usual default of mostly white-looking object. The reason for this is we want everything that's not on the floor to stand out. So we'll change the albedo color, which is the base color for the material, from white to a sort of medium dark gray. I'm going to go about there, so a darkish gray. I've set the RGB values all to 103. You can also change the colors by clicking on this little button here, which changes it from RGB to hue saturation value. If you just want to choose the grayscale value, you can do that there. We'll go back to 103. We'll drag the floor material onto the floor object, and now we'll resize the floor to make it actually look like a floor, because right now it's just a cube. We can do this in two ways. One way is to use the Scale tool and stretch it like that. Another way would be to use the Rect tool, where if we change our view of the game to a top-down view, we can stretch it like so, dragging the corners rather than stretching it from the inside out. This will do, and I'll just make it fairly centered. Next up, we'll create a wall. The wall will be an object that our bottles sit on top of. Again, we'll go Game Object, 3D Object, Cube. To get a closer view of our cube, I can press the F key to zoom in, or you can hold down the right mouse button and move the camera around. While doing that, you can press the W, S, A, and D keys to move around as well, so you can use this to fly around the scene. So let's position our wall, and we'll use the same technique as before. We'll use the Rect tool to resize the wall. There we go, using the shadows as kind of a reference to let us see how close it is to the ground. Okay, if we play the game now and look around, here's our wall. We'll also change the static mode for the wall to be on, and we'll also change the name of it to wall, just to keep our hierarchy clean and tidy. Now that our floor and wall is ready, let's make the bottle prefab. The bottle prefab will be made out of green glass material. We'll begin by creating a cylinder, and then creating a green glass material and adding it to that cylinder. After that, we'll end up creating a script that will make the bottle shatter when it hits the floor. Let's create the initial cylinder by going to Game Object, 3D Object, Cylinder. By default, the cylinder is too large, so we'll go to the Scale tool and click and drag on the center cube to scale all three axes at the same time. We'll actually make it quite small. Next, we'll position the cylinder on top of the wall. So I'll do this by dragging it over there. If you need to position stuff more precisely, you can use a top-down or side-on view by clicking on the cones here. There we go, and now I'm looking at it from the very top. If I click on the cube in the middle, it will change the projection from perspective to orthographic inside the scene view. This will allow me to directly position the cylinder over the cube. Then I can go to a side-facing one. There it is, a bit too tall. There we go. And then I can click on the cube one more time. Then you're flying around the scene. Doing this has made me realize that the wall is too thick, so I'll scale that as well. And finally, I'll make the cylinder taller by approaching it with my Rect tool turned on and stretching it upwards a bit. There we go. Now let's create our glass material. Right-click in the Assets folder, Create Material. We'll name it Glass. Glass is not opaque, glass is transparent. So we'll change the rendering mode of our glass shader from opaque to transparent. Next, we'll change the main color of our glass material to be bright green. Additionally, we'll make this color mostly transparent. Let's add our material to our bottle. It's close, but it's not quite glass looking. It looks more like transparent plastic. We can improve this by increasing the smoothness value. It defaults at 0.5, but if we increase that, then the whole thing becomes quite a lot shinier. Now, as I fly around the scene, you'll notice that it looks significantly more glossy. Now we'll work on the physical attributes of our bottle. Our bottle should be physically simulated. The idea is that we throw a ball at the bottle and that will knock it off. When it lands on the floor, it should explode into shards. Doing this will require using a rigid body and an appropriately shaped collider. Select our cylinder, which, while we're here, I'll press enter and rename it to bottle. I'll remove the capsule collider because the capsule collider actually has rounded edges. If you look very closely at the very top of the object, you'll notice there's a rounded edge here, and that's not really what we want. It won't be very stable. So we'll remove the capsule collider by clicking on the gear button and clicking remove component. And we'll click add component and add in a mesh collider. We'll indicate that this mesh collider is convex, that is, it doesn't have any concave elements in it. And now we have a much more closely fitting collider. Notice there's no round bit at the very top. It's going flat across the top there. That'll make it much more stable. We'll also add a rigid body by clicking add component and typing rigid body. Let's test it by clicking the play button, and we'll attempt to knock the bottle off the wall. Getting the aiming is going to be an interesting trick. I feel like the wall might be too far away. So we'll stop playing and we'll bring the wall and the bottle closer to the camera, going back to the move tool and just dragging that blue arrow, which is the forward direction, closer to the camera. Let's play the game one more time. And now I'll try and hit the bottle again by throwing the ball. There we go. And it collides and falls down. We now have the basics of our gameplay ready, so we'll leave it here for now. In the next video, we'll improve the appearance of our glass bottle shattering.